Not a conventional dictator. We're facing a narco-terrorist structure that has turned Venezuelan territory, Venezuelan resources, Venezuelan institutions, and that turned them to the activities of a criminal cartel.
And this language you use, narco-terrorism, this is exactly the language that the Trump administration uses about Venezuela. And President Trump is saying, after the boat strikes, the land will be next. Do you support U.S. military strikes on the territory of Venezuela as part of what you call a process?
I believe that the increase in pressure and the escalation that's taking place is the only way to force Maduro to understand that it's time to go.
That was part of a revealing interview with Venezuelan opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado, discussing how U.S. military intervention may be the only way to remove Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro from power. The interview comes as the U.S. is reportedly preparing to attack military targets inside Venezuela on land after a series of boat strikes in international waters in the Caribbean. Machado spoke to journalist Mishal Hussein on the new podcast that bears her name. It's Bloomberg's latest series that looks to make sense of the world with one essential conversation every weekend. And Mishal joins us now. She's also editor-at-large for Bloomberg Weekend. Essential conversation indeed. Give us a few of your takeaways, including very striking right there, a seemingly blessing of attacks on the home soil of her native land.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. I mean, she chose her words carefully, but I think the implications of what she's saying is pretty clear when she talks, as she does to me in this interview for my podcast, about this being the last chance or the last opportunity for Nicolas Maduro to leave Venezuela peacefully, or for that regime to come to an end peacefully. I think what she's really saying is that this is probably a last chance for a movement like hers to really get the United States to act in the way that it has long dreamed of doing. So it's a very timely conversation because she won the Nobel Peace Prize 3 weeks ago now. But since then, the situation between the US and Venezuela has only become more extreme. And let's be in no doubt that that military buildup, which is gathering pace by the day, appears to be the largest in the Caribbean since Noriega in 1989. So we're at a really pivotal moment.
Yeah, an aircraft division is heading that way. It flies in the face of some long campaign promises from President Trump. People forget now, 2016 feels like so long ago. But he was elected in part because of his promise to pull out of Iraq and Afghanistan, to be done with these forever wars, U.S. military intervention. That really struck a lot of people. And yet here we are, potentially on the precipice of at least something in Venezuela. So my question to you is, if this indeed occurs, if there are strikes, if maybe not boots on the ground, but strikes in the Venezuela mainland, how is that going to be received there? What happens?
Well, the CIA has already been authorized to take covert action inside Venezuela. And if you just look at the boat strikes, which have been going on for the last 2 months, and I can see now that there's concern, as you aired today, even from Republican lawmakers on that front. These boat strikes have been incredibly striking. When they began, it looked like they might be a one-off, but the fact that they've continued, that dozens of people have been killed. I'm based in London, and a lot of the conversations that I'm going to have on the Mishal Hussein Show podcast are geopolitical conversations. They're about the intersection of America and the rest of the world. And there is concern amongst senior figures in America's allies about the implications of these boat strikes, how little evidence, if any, has been put forward, how there's little else other than this grainy footage that is released, and the implications for that, because such strikes conducted in different parts of the world have generally been done on the basis of there being an imminent threat. And in this context, while of course the administration talks about the ongoing narco-terrorism in their words, it's very hard to see what the imminent threat posed by those boats in the Caribbean might be. So I think they have very serious implications for America's allies as well as for the United States itself.
Let's talk about our priorities. We have a threat potentially on Taiwan. We just don't know, because Biden said we'll all go in there and defend it. The Americans will go fight on the beaches of Taiwan to protect that country's, in effect, independence. We have a threat to Europe, a direct threat to Europe, and they feel it very close. Moscow's not that far away. And now we're saying, let's go fight with Maduro. Is it worth it?
Well, look, as far as Ukraine's concerned, I think we've seen over so many months Keir Starmer and others in Europe trying to move President Trump closer to where the Europeans would like him to be on that. But I think in terms of the choices President Trump has made so far, in where he has chosen to exercise power, or as in the case of Venezuela, what he may or may not be building up to, I think from elsewhere in the world, there's also the perspective that he has chosen Venezuela and Iran, and these are very different, much easier targets in many ways to destabilize than China or Russia.
In other words, bite-sized wars.
All right, the Mishal Hussein Show available now. We should note, in addition to the episode from which we just played an excerpt, we also spoke to Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. So some very impressive guests to get you going. Mishal, thank you so much for being here this morning.